Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Ms. Drago, Ms. Washington, Mr. Hoisman.
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Neal,
Here.
Mr. Barlow, no, Mr. Benedict, no, Mr. Harper, no. Okay, so that's 6 present.
So we do not have.
Could you all use your microphones, please?
So, Mr. Chair, with 6 members present, you don't have a quorum which you would need to transact official business, and what that means is you wouldn't be able to take any actions formally tonight, and that would include approving the minutes. It would include approving item 4 or 5. You could, however, since it's only a discussion item, discuss the clarion rewrite, so long as you don't call for a vote or take any official action with the group.
All right, so we go right to that then.
That would be my recommendation.
Well, that's what we'll follow. And can we take anything from the audience? I mean, can we listen to anybody from the audience if the rest of the group is not here to hear it?
I think you can listen to members of the audience. You're not taking official action as a group when you do that.
Well, we probably shouldn't hear the applicant, because that is the case we were going to have tonight.
I would advise you not to discuss the items 4 and 5 that are on the agenda. They're quasi-judicial items, and you want to hear all the facts at a single hearing where possible. But I mean, if another member shows up before the end of the meeting, you could then hear those cases.
Well, I guess if the board has anything that they would like to address about their new book on the Land Development Code.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have members of the public who want to speak to it?
I'm sorry?
Do we have any members of the
We can
public?
certainly ask, I didn't know if the board wanted anything to comment about first. Anybody have any comments about
Clarion?
about the?
A lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, yes,
And this was helpful,
yes it was.
and this that we got tonight
Mhm.
was helpful.
Yeah, as staff preparing for discussing this tonight, I wasn't sure. We have Mr. Neal have been very involved with all the modules that kind of Clarion's been down here as this has been going forward. To others that when we had discussions and even on the board. So in terms of talking about details in that PowerPoint, that's pretty in-depth. I didn't know if you wanted to get that deep or process or the goals, the fold out that you have there. One of the big things in there, that was very early in the process when Clarion came in, they interviewed a lot of stakeholders. They kind of collected thoughts and put together the goals that they would like to accomplish with this, and that lists those, and then has each of them kind of spelled out in a little bit more detail, and that's why I included that, because that's kind of more of the history to get to where we are, and I think this document is meeting those goals. Now, all the devil's in the details, and we're still working through details, and certainly want to talk about those when the timing is right. In fact, if you had a chance to read the cover memo that actually went from me to the mayor and commission and city manager, in terms of the contract and where we've been, we've had a lot of input. We had the subcommittee met at length. We had most all of the staff users, if not all the staff users, have quite a bit of input. We've met a lot with the V-Card group. Really appreciate their help and input. It's really improved the document. I don't think we're done, because it's in the website is listed in there where all of the previous documents are all listed in there. One of the new ones, besides the clean version of this, is strike through and underline. And that strike through and underline represents changes from the last public version. So if you were very familiar with the last one that we had the subcommittee working on, you could look at just the strike through and underline, and see just the changes there. But if you hadn't looked at that, you're probably better to look at the clean one. That clean one is one we would suggest we move forward to the hearing. I think what will happen though, we will gather more input and probably come back and staff will recommend some updates to even the clean version, but it'll be a whole lot less than if you go back to the old one where we strike through and underlines, and there were a lot of pages of comments from staff, pages of comments from VCARD, and went through all of those at great length. So the biggest thing left is we have under contract with Clarion, they were supposed to deliver a public hearing document, which usually this is. And then they had 3 more trips down here, and we were going to use them for your hearing, and both commission meetings would be hearings and use them for that. If there are questions or comments on anything you've read so far or on the outline, and we could answer it, we would, or we certainly could pass it on to Clarion, so when they come for the hearing, they would be prepared. I don't know if you're ready to set a date. I think until we set a date, people are probably not going to get serious about reading this or giving comments anyway. And we've only had it for 30 days. We said in the cover memo, we thought this size of document, we probably want at least 60 days. But I need to also find when you're ready for a hearing, whether the consultants are even available. So I'd like to encourage you if you have some idea of how soon you think that will be available. Start trying to get some dates with the consultant, setting the hearing, and if you want to have a more detailed workshop before we have a hearing, or try to have a hearing, and if you can't make it through in one meeting, we have to continue that, that's fine. We hope to bring you as much streamlined process as possible, so you don't have to wade through a lot of details, but willing to listen to any suggestions or thoughts anyone has.
Well, last meeting you mentioned August the 14th. Are you still
Well,
got
there,
that
I
as
think
a
there were
target
some,
in mind, or?
well, I think there were some people that said that date didn't work for them, number one, and then number two, that's only a couple weeks away, so I think it would be helpful for, especially for the public, to say we've got a date and they have time to prepare for that. I'm not sure there's enough time for that. And I think that may be a date that, I'm not sure if we heard from Clarion if they were even available on that. They had that reserved at the time, but I think they've probably since filled that date on their calendar. So that's why I need to, they've got a lot of other projects going on around the country, so I need to get on their calendar to make sure they can be here, whatever works best for us.
Now, you don't wanna do it at a regular meeting, because you've got a big meeting next month.
Yeah,
Do we not?
next August, I can tell you right now, is a very, very large agenda, bigger than we've had in a long time. So there won't be time in there to do much. In fact, that meeting is going to be quite lengthy.
Plus we got just 2 added next month.
Right.
Yes.
For these
Got
2.
what?
We just got 2 added
If we don't hear
to the already large agenda for August.
Well, now, would you wanna think about September then? For
yes,
this?
that's what I was hoping is first or second week in September, maybe do it on
Still trying to keep it on a Thursday.
if that works best. It doesn't have to be the first week of the month. I was the city commission on Wednesday night, so we couldn't do it in here on that night.
What would that be then? And that'd be what date is that?
September 3rd is Wednesday, the 4th.
No, you
is-
don't wanna do that one, though, 'cause that's Labor Day, isn't it?
Well, on Monday is Labor Day, Wednesday is the city commission, so if you want to
No, I
do
don't
it that
think
week, I
that's-
would suggest Thursday, or the following week is the 11th.
Yeah, I think that's be more like it, would you think?
That's more like it.
Okay.
I have just made reservations for September 7th through 18th. And I know you don't have to work around my calendar, but I have blocked that out and was planning to be back in plenty of time for planning.
Well, it's very difficult, you know, when
It
you
is
have this many
difficult,
people on the
yes.
board,
Yes.
you know, it's, and of course, we're talking about the summertime, a lot of people take time off in August and
Right.
September, and,
I understand.
makes it
That's-
difficult.
Right.
Well, then what do you think we say, we set up then for the Thursday, the, you say 11th?
The 11th.
Does that sound all right? What do you think, Tim? Are you okay with that, or?
Well, if everyone here but Pat shows up, we're gonna be well short of a quorum, so we need to make sure we can at least hope we have a quorum for that night before we set that hearing.
Well, I guess we better find out from the other people so
Yeah.
that we don't go ahead with it.
Right.
That's unless we're going to, let's not. Let's not shoot
Okay,
ourselves.
that's one option. Is there another one if that doesn't work for a quorum of this group or even Clarion doesn't work? Is there
The 18th.
the 18th to do?
But now, that wouldn't be the third, no.
That
that
would be
would
the third, and then your meeting is the fourth.
It's the 4th.
Okay, then why don't we do that?
Okay.
So either the second or third Thursday of September.
And Pat, of course, could cut one day short of her vacation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm flying Allegiant, and they only fly on Sunday and Thursday.
Well,
Good comeback.
All right, what do you think? Do you have anything was there anything that you'd like to express to staff now while we're here?
Express what?
Just staff.
To staff?
Questions?
Well, yeah, I was looking, I'm sure I've overlooked it someplace, but I did not see anything addressing submerged land changes. I understood for about 2 years now that it was going to be in the land development code.
You trying to get some
Did I
public
overlook
comments
this
tonight?
or what?
We're only working from level up.
I think the submerged lands detail that are in there are dealing with the flow area ratio and the densities and how we calculate that, so it's addressed in there, and that we call submerged lands.
But it would be covered under
Yes.
that, under square footage.
Wait, since I won't be here for the public hearing will be to take comment from the public and to work then with Clarion, so that if I have comments that I wanted to make, I should get those to you in advance, or what would be the appropriate purpose?
Sure.
Process, okay.
Yeah, first off, if you have questions, the sooner you get them to us, the better, because if
Okay.
we can't answer, we're gonna have Clarion come prepared for that, and then certainly if you have any specific ones for the hearing itself, we can incorporate that. I think we're already hearing some things from some of the staff and the users where we're gonna recommend approval of this document with some changes, and we'll just add that to the list. If some of them will be, we've heard from this group, and this is what they feel. So I can tell you there are gonna be some items where some people think we're too tough. Some people are gonna say we're too lenient. So that's probably gonna say we recommend what we got, but here's comments we received.
You mean there was controversy about it? You mean some people would think differently about it?
Well,
We have some people in the audience that were at some of those discussions, and they may not all even be in agreement on some of those same issues, so.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a point for Mr. Moore and the rest of the board. If you're looking online, if you go online to the city's website and you pull up the electronic version of the rewrite, you can do word searches. You can type in a specific word and it'll search the document for that word. So if you're looking for something specific, you'll be able to search it that way instead of flipping through all of the pages. You'll be able to do that. So.
And the purpose of this rewrite of land development code is one size just doesn't fit all. And that's what our past code has kind of done, like it's a typical 90 by 100 foot lot. And then, so that's how come everything has to come before us if it's an irregular shaped lot or it's this or that. And then so the rewrite of the land development code takes for those exceptions without having to come before us because it's already in the code and it can be approved on city level.
Streamlining the process was a big component. Flexibility is a big component of it.
The compatible lot thing, I think, because that came from the affordable housing board.
Yeah, this,
Because before, if you had 20 50-foot lot or 45 to 40-foot lots, and you had one vacant one there, that was non-conforming, you couldn't build. If it was 50 foot and it was conforming and you built, you had to put a sidewalk in front of the house, and none of the rest of the streets got a sidewalk, except right there. So that clears that stuff up.
Well, just because I know I had worked with Rich before when I was historic preservation, just so you'll know, as I go through and read it, since I won't be here for the public hearing, I will be really looking at the ability that we have to redevelop, and especially non-conforming lots. Those are the things that I've been historically really concerned with, is to make sure that everything doesn't have to be a special hearing or special variance. Let's get through and streamline that, encourage the redevelopment, and especially those older districts, and not have everything be an exception to the rule. Make sure that the rule has some of that built in. So those were some of the things that I had been concerned with before. And just a question, when I had, seems like a long time ago when I was younger, There was talk about once they adopt the land development code, now you're gonna have to redo zoning maps, but as I read this, it seemed like the zoning map changes were then inherent. Was there gonna be a separate process for that?
The concept with this code as written is to have no rezonings. It's a conversion, so
Okay.
we'll have 5 current single-family designations. They want to, Clarion's suggesting it's much more easy to understand and much more manageable to have less categories. So that was the
Right.
goal of taking 5 single-family and make them 1 designation. 2 multifamily and make 1. So there's a lot of collapsing of zones, but it's just a redesignation, not rezoning. There will be rezonings, for instance, Midtown right now. Midtown does not have its own zoning categories. They have regular zoning that's anywhere else in the city. There are placeholders for all of their own zoning. Those designations will get set up in here, and then I would suspect there will be some city-initiated, probably rezoning to do all of Midtown to be consistent with the master plan. That has been put in the comp plan. Once we have the designation, then they can all be administratively rezoned and help implement that plan. We've got some new categories that were written out on the beach side, for instance, that nothing will be redesignated to that initially, but it'll be available for redevelopment purposes that there's a need for.
And although we've had the time lapse, the E-zone is still not in a document that will be incorporated within the land development code at the time of the adoption.
Correct. We need some more work done on that. There are a couple of areas that had a lot of history to get adopted, like the historic preservation sign ordinance, where we're not going to reopen those as part of this. They're in a new form now, but we're not making any substantial changes on those. We want to get this adopted, and we'll take those on as we.
Doesn't VCART have a meeting scheduled to talk about the sign ordinances with the city?
Yeah, what happened with that is the city commission has been asking, the same as you have, why do we have to keep amending things for the background colors or
Right.
the graphics, and do we have the latest state-of-the-art in number of dots per inch and the brightness. So we did some research on that and sent that to them. They're having their sign people take a look at that. Our research from staff was that we had those standards, what we have in our code, are what the other communities already have. So
something new comes out.
Yeah, something new comes out. So once we hear back from them, we'll be back to you to address that. But and so that's what they're doing. They've shared it with particularly their sign people, their data. We'll have a meeting with them, and once we do that, we'll report back to you, the city commission, where we are.
I thought it was really well done too, where it's showing what steps are necessary to get something taken care of and what organization it ends up with it at the end, whether it's planning board or board of adjustments or whatever. And it has that little chart that's on the right-hand side in yellow. I just thought that was very well done, because I think the public can look at that too and say, hey, now I understand what they're talking about.
It's much clearer, and what they've collapsed is
Yeah, it's
much
much
more user-friendly, I'll put it that way.
All right, anything else? Okay. All right, can I wrap this?
We have public
Comments?
We can do that. Would anybody in the audience have anything to address the board about?
He's gonna have to explain a bunch of unexcused absences.
Sure.
Family emergency in Miami. Again, somebody brought it up, floor area ratio, submerged land, and hotel parking. I think it's been 10 years now. We started to talk about this, and then I think 10 years ago we said, well, we're discussing the beachfront right now, and we will get to it. And then we're going to go to the river, and then we're going to go to the other side of the river, and then we'll start going west. Well, then the Land Development Code rewrite came in, and we will discuss it during the rewrite. I've been missing, so you all have discussed the submerged land here at some point?
We've already made policy on it.
Yeah, not to discuss it. We went through this, if you recall, on Beach Street, And it was horrendous. They got, I think, 3 square feet on land and 6 miles out in the river, and they decided to build this humongous hotel and then convert it to condo because they couldn't get a hotel in. So we wanted to discuss this so we wouldn't do this again.
They were gonna flip it anyway.
I know, they're really going to flip it. They talk about that with the Hard Rock. But we really should discuss these things before it gets into the rewrite, because there's no sense in putting it in the rewrite only to bring it back and to discuss it again, which is apparently what we've been planning on doing, but we've never done it. So, and then when we were going through the big boom, there was a problem with the garage parking spaces. If you were building in the core area, and that was Brady Gillespie was planning on doing, we were required X number of parking spaces. Then you required X number more parking spaces if they had a restaurant. And then if they had shops. So they were required to have 3 or 4 extra floors of parking that they would never use because many of their guests would be eating in that restaurant. Many of their guests would be using those facilities, the spa and whatnot. It would be very limited to the number of people outside, and most of those outside would be walking traffic from other hotels. So we were going to discuss the possibility of lowering the number of parking spaces, because now right next to my house there's a huge condominium going in, 122 units and 500 unit hotel, and they will have to meet those old requirements. So they're building a parking garage at the end of my block, I think 5 stories. Do we want them to pay an extra $2, $5, $10 million that they don't necessarily have to pay? So since the Hard Rock is coming in, hopefully 2 more locations down the street from me are going in. If they go in, let's try as best we can to limit the cost beforehand. Landscaping is a problem with me. We require all this yucky landscaping. You've been down Beach Street. You've seen the trees and the grass. It's very minimal. I think it's extremely attractive. Then you go to A1A. We've redone A1A 5 times since they first started it, and it's still like garbage. I guess is the best word I can use. There's another word appropriate. But it looks terrible, and that's where all our tourists see this garbage. When they walk down A1A, it is never taken care of properly, and it requires an extensive amount of man-hours to keep it looking ugly. So if we could look at our landscaping, there's certain trees and certain styles that can be done with pavers and art and whatnot that requires a minimal amount of landscaping, but a tremendous impact if we could do that. And lastly, it's been 9 years on the E-zone, and you just told me we're going through another year or 2 or 3 for the E-zone. Is there a projected time when we can know about the E-zone? 9 years is a long time. And then they sort of kind of almost passed it 4 years ago. So
The E-zone right now is in the comp plan. It's identified and accepted. The details of that, one of the big issues with that is parking. Unified drainage ponds, we don't have a bunch of little ones. There's a lot of details that policy decisions need to be made, including what is the ultimate boundary. I mean, we put a boundary in the comp plan, and we have people just outside of it talking about wanting to be part of it. So that's part of the holdup. And I would expect this not to be held up for that. We're going to adopt it with placeholder for the
and
E-zone.
then go back to the E-zone after it. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome back, John.
Thank you. All right, does anybody else in the audience like to address anything?
That's pretty good.
Come on, John.
Okay, board, anything else? If not, we're adjourned.